The tightness you feel in your psoas and hip flexors is the symptom, and that's why stretching them constantly doesn't give you the relief you're looking for. Instead, let's focus on asking and addressing why is the psoas tight in the first place. The reason why your psoas is tight is because your brain and body want to keep them tight. See, most people associate a tight psoas with anterior pelvic tilt, where the pelvis tips forward. So they think they have tight hip flexors, a tight low back, and weak abs and weak glutes. But again, we have to go a layer deeper. Why is the pelvis even tilting forward in the first place? Why are the psoas muscles tight in the first place? What is causing this chain reaction? It's not like the body just woke up one day and decided, hey, I want my hip flexors to be tight. You see, there's a reason why upwards of 85% of the population has some degree of anterior pelvic tilt. It is a strategy, and that strategy is the body is trying to help us move forward through space and stand upright against gravity. You see, gravity is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, and if over time we compile injuries, we become more sedentary, we lose movement variability, we get older and things stiffen up, then at some point we're going to struggle to properly stand fully upright against gravity and move forward through space. So over time, we slowly chip away at our genuine ability to access movement and range of motion at our hips, at our legs, at our feet, at our torso. And so our body senses this. What the summation effect of this is we lack the ability to properly put force into the ground, stand upright against gravity, and propel ourselves forward, because every single human is trying to do those things to a certain extent. So if we can't do that genuinely, we tip our pelvis forward. We point our hip sockets down closer to the floor. That allows us to express the ability for the hip to go back in the hip socket and produce what we call internal rotation. And this happens over a period of time. So the hip flexors and the psoas progressively get more and more tight, the more our pelvis and center of gravity goes forward. But it's not the psoas's fault. It's the brain trying to put the skeleton in a position that can manage gravity and the gait cycle effectively. So now that we've zoomed out, let's zoom in on what the psoas is actually doing in this position. What's interesting about the psoas muscle, because it attaches on the inside portion of the femur, the more tight it gets and the more leverage it gets to move the femur, it is going to eventually pull the femur into external rotation as the pelvis goes more and more forward, which is inverse of typically what happens is the pelvis initially goes forward, the femur should move back into internal rotation. But as we go more and more forward, we actually have this interesting effect where the femur gets pulled out into external rotation. And other muscles assist with this too, but the psoas is a primary player. So the solution is twofold. If you want to address the true root cause, you've got to teach your body's center of gravity to shift back relatively more onto your heels. And you want to teach a better stacking and neutral starting point of the head over the rib cage, over the pelvis, over the foot. And we can do that through a couple of different strategies. So when you do these exercises I'm about to show you, I want you to have a different intention than you ever had doing an exercise in your mind before. Instead of thinking about trying to activate muscles or stretch out other ones, think about doing these exercises, you trying to train your brain. You're trying to wire your brain to create a neurological association between your body's joints and your skeleton in a certain position and feeling weight distributed through your foot in a specific way. This is less of a muscular-driven approach and again, more of a brain-driven approach. See, the brain is king and the number one thing we have to appreciate when it comes to why muscles get tight and stay tight. So we want to address that as a primary focus of anything that we do. So the first exercise I'm going to show you is to help bring your center of gravity back. But then we can get more local and focus on the hips themselves once the center of gravity is pulled back. We're going to help reposition the pelvis into a state that is the inverse of the psoas's function. So we're going to help bring the pelvis into a position of more hip extension or relative posterior pelvic tilt as opposed to anterior pelvic tilt. And then we're also going to help promote a little bit more internal rotation of the femurs rather than external rotation. Because remember, the psoas, when it gets tight, pulls the pelvis forward and then externally rotates too on top of that eventually. So what we want to do is help drive this tilting back and this moving in. So this video is going to give you two exercises that should give you some instantaneous results. But as of this video, I have a new free resource called the Psoas Solution, which takes into account the entire body within this forward center of gravity strategy that so many people have. So we're going to have exercises that address a lot of the things, the hips we need and the rest of the body, but also the feet, because the feet are such an important player in how our center of gravity is being managed and how we're interacting with the floor. So if you want to download that for free, check it out down below in the description. All you're gonna need for this is a foam roller, a chair, and also a wall. So what you want to do is get a little over about one of your foot lengths away from the wall, feet hip width apart. Take that foam roller, hopefully it's not too long, slide it up in your upper thighs. You want to keep your knees and your hips and your feet generally in line with each other. Now, lock out your knees and gently keep that chair close to you with your arms pretty straight. At this point, you should feel like most of your back, but not all of it, is flat on the wall. You want to feel these 3 points of contact, your heel, base of the big toe, and base of the little toe, evenly on both sides. But again, remember, we're really focusing on the heels, so don't lift up your toes trying to find your heels. Just keep your whole foot flat and relaxed, but keep an emphasis on the heels. Now, all you're gonna do is just very gently hold that foam roller between your thighs. You're not squeezing it, but unlock your knees and slightly squat down, stopping at the point where you feel gentle contact of those 2 knuckle-like points on the back side of your pelvis called your PSIS come into contact with the wall. Now here's the key. Remember, we're training our brain and our center of gravity. So all we're gonna do is, keeping our eyes perfectly straight ahead, is very gently reach the chair away from you, maintaining those points of contact on the wall very gently, just a 2 out of 10 or so. We're not reaching like this. We're staying tall, keeping our sternum or breastbone up, and we're just gently separating our shoulder blades away from our spine. That's all that chair is there for. It's just a reference to sense that reach. And now, remember, we're training our brain and our center of gravity coming back. So pushing a chair away from us gives us something to kind of push back against gently. And we're going to just create a connection in our brain. Think heels working with our spine in this position. Whole foot's relaxed, but we're gonna breathe and teach our bodies that this is safe. So exhale very gently, like you're fogging a mirror, for about 5 to 10 seconds. At the end of that, you're gonna feel your rib cage come down a little bit and your side abs engage. Pause, inhale through your nose very gently, maintaining a slight amount of that ab tension you got as a result of that exhale, not because you're crunching. So a whole rep, a whole sequence looks like this. 1 foot length away from the wall-ish, feet hip width apart, weights in the heels, but the whole foot is flat, unlocking the knees until I get to those gentle points of contact on the back of my pelvis right there, reaching slightly away very gently. Everything is just a 2 or 3 out of 10 effort. And now exhale. When you inhale, your neck is relaxed and chill. Remember, it's all about the intention. It's all about training our body what the sense of our heels is with our spine in this position. If you do that, I promise you, you'll get better results. If this video is helping you understand your body and your hip flexors and your psoas in a way that you haven't considered before, it would mean a lot to me in the channel if you could like and subscribe, and also leave a comment down below about how the exercise has helped you. For this, you're gonna lay on your back with your feet against the wall and your knees and hips bent each at a 90-degree angle or a right angle. You're gonna take that foam roller from earlier, put it in between your mid to upper thighs. Make sure your whole foot is flat on the ground. Now here's what you're gonna do. Point your chin passively at the ceiling, so it shouldn't be down or off of the ground. And you're gonna make sure that you're feeling those same 3 points of contact from earlier, but again, especially focusing on the heels. Keeping your whole foot and toes relaxed, keeping those points of contact. You're gonna drag your heels down, or have the intention to drag your heels down on the wall. Your feet stay in the same place, but your knees are gonna lift up, and the result of the intention of dragging your feet down is what's going to lift your tailbone gently off of the ground and engage your hamstring muscles or back of the thighs on both sides. And you wanna just hold this position, making a relationship in your head between your hamstrings working with your heels and your whole foot flat. You're teaching your brain, hey, when my whole foot is flat on the ground, my hamstrings can better control the tilt of my pelvis and help me be pulled back in space. That's the intention I really want you to keep in your head, because that is the difference between success and failure. It's creating that neurological, that brain to foot connection with the hamstrings. Now the breathing is the exact same. You're gonna hold this position and just very gently exhale through your mouth, staying nice and relaxed. You can close your eyes if you want. Feel the side abs engage at the end of the exhale. Pause, relax. Inhale through your nose very gently, maintaining a little bit of that side ab tension. Neck stays off when you inhale. That's key. Now, you're just holding that position. If you're having a hard time feeling your hamstrings, as some people will, what you could do is you could take some shelf of some sort like this, or just kind of get creative, and you can place the back of your heels on it. Make sure, again, your feet are in line with your knees and your hips.
and you can have something to drag down into. You could even put your feet on the back of a chair potentially, as long as you're 90-90, but it just depends on the person, what works best for you. Ideally, your foot is flat on something, you have a little shelf like this. Now, some people will benefit from a very slight squeeze of the foam roller after they get their knees up and their tailbone gently lifted off of the ground. That slight squeeze can give you a little bit more of that internal rotation, but it should never be more than about a 3 out of 10. And if this feels uncomfortable for you or it doesn't feel right, just don't do it. That's totally fine to not do it and just have this foam roller as a placeholder. That is honestly ideal for about half of people, but the other half might benefit from that very gentle squeeze. The last key to keep in mind here is that your low back is flat on the ground. Tailbone is gently tucked off. If you feel like your back is arching or your rib cage is flaring, that's bad. So make sure low back flattens out as you drag down those heels.
For maximum results, I do each of these exercises daily. Probably 1 to 2 sets in the morning for about 8 to 10 breath cycles, and then 2 sets later in the day for, again, 8 to 10 breath cycles. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to check out that Psoas solution guide for free.